Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lauren Jasinski. I am the newly elected chair of the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club. We're really glad to, thanks everybody. We're really glad to have you and ready to kick off this meeting. We've got some great speakers and some good information for all of you. Could we start off by having the officers introduce themselves, please? Arv, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, my name's Arv. I am the vice chair of the club, and usually try to introduce myself to new members. So I'm going to share my phone number and email in the chat. Just feel free to reach out to me if you're new. This is a great club. That's all.
Awesome. Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Andrews. I'm the newly elected secretary of the club, and it's great to see everybody here. And that's it.
And Ian.
Hi, everyone. I am the re-elected treasurer incumbent. So I am excited to be serving the club again this year. Yeah.
Cool, we've got a great team. We also always start off our meetings by having anyone new introduce themselves. So is there anyone that is new on the call, new to the club, or hasn't joined us in a while that would like to say hello and let us know what you're doing here? You can either just jump off mute, or if you want to raise your hand in the menu at the bottom, if you click on the participants icon, there should be a little blue raise your hand option.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Minner. Hi, I'm here because I wanted to hear Lakeesha, her story and important history that she shares. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining us. Anybody else new or haven't been here in a while that would like to say hello? Brenda, I see you.
Hello, I won't start the video because I'm still in my robe, but I've never been to one of your meetings and I just want to see what your club is all about. I actually live in Oak Park, so nice to meet you all.
Great, thanks so much for coming. We're glad to have you. Anybody else? I'm not seeing any other hands. Okay, great. Well, if you are new and just don't want to speak this morning, we completely understand, but we're glad to have you and welcome to our club. So we're going to jump right into our guest speaker. We've got Lakeesha Morrison joining us here. She is a Royal Oak resident and activist and local advocate for both education and racial equality. She organized a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, movements, events this summer in our city, and we are so glad to have her. So we're going to learn a little bit about her and her family's history. Lakeesha, go for it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys. It's always been a blessing to be online with you guys. Like Lauren had said, I started really getting involved in our city over the summer when the murder of George Floyd, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Little back history of myself. I'm born and raised in Royal Oak. My father, who recently passed away, would educate us every Saturday morning after we got up from bed. He would say, "Rise and shine. It's time to learn a little bit of history." So growing up in our little ranch, we had a little ranch home right off the 13 Mile and Crooks Road. Actually, it's really Webster and Crooks Road, where the Planet Fitness is, and there's a condos. So our little ranch used to stay right there. And growing up, we would go down our halls and we would see our ancestors, our pictures, and my dad would give us a little bit of history every day, every weekend. And our history rooted all the way back in 1865, and that is when my ancestors established living in Royal Oak. Their name was Elizabeth and Henry Hamer. They were runaway slaves from Kentucky. They ended up in Canada and stayed there and stayed in hiding for a little bit until Henry came down into the Detroit area to find a home and a job. And when they finally established living, he finally found work in Royal Oak and worked for Star, building bricks and whatnot. he decided to bring his family back down, and they established living in Royal Oak. It is known that they are the first Black Americans in Royal Oak. And they worked for their land, and they worked really hard because back then it wasn't just given to you. You actually had to work for it. And they worked for the Almond Star, like I had mentioned, and they ended up getting 7 acres of property for each one of their children. And eventually those acres got a little bit smaller and smaller, but we still possess ownership of a little bit of the land right at Webster and Crooks Road. Elizabeth and Henry had 6 children. They all worked for the Almond Star and the Star family as nannies, and helped out on their land as well. So they had a really great relationship. And I think it needs to be known that they weren't slaves. They worked very hard for their property, and they wanted to make sure that they left a little bit of something for their children's children. So I'm very pleased and happy that we still have that land in possession. So yeah, that's a little backstory of my family. I don't know if anyone has questions or any of that good stuff, but like I said, I mean, Elizabeth and Henry are actually buried in the Royal Oak Cemetery. So they were also the first Black Americans that were buried in that cemetery. It is known that either you would have to be Black or white to establish citizenship in Royal Oak as well. So there was a little bit of miscommunication about if they were the only Black people in their time to establish living in Royal Oak. Come to find out, there was a Native American family that either had to say that they were white or Black, and so they wrote down that in the census that they were Black. So it's a lot of interesting stories where Royal Oak was established and how it got its name and how it revolved, and yeah. So
what a legacy for your family to have. And your family was honored by being in the you're in the new mural in City Hall, right?
yes. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to give my thanks to my father who passed away, because he really got that ball rolling for me. Someone, when I mentioned during the Black Lives Matter movement, which is still a movement, it's not a moment, it's still a movement. We still have to continuing to fight for our voices of our peers and our friends and our brothers. But my father mentioned, like, throw in the fact that, like, you have all this roots in Royal Oak, and see how far that gets you. And Judy had a lovely lady named Judy reached out and said, hey, we didn't know that you guys were still here, and we would love to showcase your family in the mural in Royal Oak. And I mean, by then it was just like so many different people started chatting and talking and messaging me and wanting to hear more of my story. And my father's like, it only takes for you to say, you have roots in Royal Oak for the ball to get going. And he helped me out a lot. And sadly, like I said, he passed away about a month and a half ago. So, but yeah, so I do a lot of this for him.
Yeah, we're so sorry for that hard loss. There's just been so much heartache this year. But that mural, right, is called Royal Oak Roots. So what a cool opportunity. Could you talk a little bit more about what it was like to organize those events this summer, kind of the steps that you had to take, whether or not, what people's reaction was and what you had to do those events?
When the story broke that George Floyd had been murdered in daylight in front of everyone to see, that kind of sparked something, because I'm raising Black children in America and in our community that still needs a little bit more progression. And honestly, like, we need more voices to step up and say, hey, equality is what we're all striving for, and that's what we need. So when I first got involved, I was chatting with another girlfriend of mine, and we have to get people involved, and social media is the best outlet for everything. So I went on social media, started a page, an event page, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And that was my second Black Lives Matter movement doing in the Royal Oak area, and that second one drew, they say, about 3,000 to 3,500, which was amazing. I thought maybe I didn't reach enough people, but when they came in strong, and it was an amazing thing to see. Obviously, we have some backlash when you hear a lot of people say all lives matter. Well, of course, all lives matter, but at this moment, your Black brothers and sisters are needing your help, and we are hurting, and we are still hurting. You know, George Floyd isn't the first or the last or the beginning of such hate. And we need to improve on these things. And, you know, I shouldn't have to sit down with my Black child and say, you know, when the cops pull you over, make sure your hands are at 12 and 2, you know, follow every single direction that is given. I mean, of course, my son would do all these things, but at the end of the day, like, these people are getting shot and killed and murdered for no reason, only because they're Black. And I think it's time for a change, and we all need to come together in solidarity and say, you know, enough is enough. We've got to be there for one another. You know, America was built on the backs of Black men and women. And I think it's everyone's turn to step up and say, you know what, enough is enough. So.
I'm interested to hear a little bit more. You mentioned just briefly, right, about the kinds of things that you need to teach your family and the kinds of things that you need to teach your sons. This summer at one of the Black Lives Matter protests, you had mentioned an interaction between a family member with police officers that you had been present at. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. When you said your sons, also my daughter, because you look at Breonna Taylor, she's sleeping in her bed. I mean, it's our brothers, our sisters, our sons, daughters, everyone's involved. So we definitely need to acknowledge the fact that, you know, each sex is being threatened right now. Back in 2002, my father and my mother had an argument where my mother wanted my father to leave the home, and, you know, on his way out, she thought, well, I can get him to get out faster if I was to call the police. And the police had arrived, and know that we've been in this community for a long time. So you would think that, like, oh, okay, I've heard of the Wilkins family, I've heard of this family. And when they arrived, by the time my father was already in his car leaving, sadly, a few of the Royal Oak police officers, which I'm hoping are retired or no longer there or learned from their actions, viciously pulled my father out of the car and gave him a good beating. And watching that from the home, I mean, I tell everyone that I'm his superhero, I'm his queen, and he's my king. Growing up, he would always teach us how to play chess. So I leaped on top of him, and, you know, I would thought that would have been enough of the beating, but that they continued to beat myself. And, you know, thank God we had a few good lawyers, and we were able to get the case resolved in our favor. I just think it's sad that, like, our system is so broken where we're still attacking Black people, even though they're doing everything right. They didn't even give my father an opportunity to come out, walk out of the car. It was just more like an attack. And seeing that at a young age, and you know, it gives me a lot of fear, and I still feel fearful when I see police officers. And I do believe that there's amazing police officers, and there's a lot of good ones, but, you know, a lot of the system is broken, and they have to be able to dismantle it and say, you know, this is right, this is wrong. Let's go ahead and relearn a lot of things. So, you know, Black or brown people, when they get in the car, they're not afraid to get pulled over by the police, or if they're walking down the street, they don't get clammed up. All these things that should be a concern, maybe they should take another moment or two and just realize that, like, you know what, they've been through a lot, and we should be able to be more compassionate when things happen, even though, you know, they're not doing anything wrong. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a couple questions in the chat. If you want to read those off.
Yeah, so there's like 3 questions. The first one, why don't we do them one by one, maybe? The first one is, what was your experience like growing up in Royal Oak? And that was asked by, hold on one second here, 2 people. That was asked by Brenda Richard and Paul Curtis.
Lovely question. Okay, so my experience, I was very sheltered growing up. A lot of my parents wouldn't let me see a lot of things. But later on in life, I've asked those questions. And sadly, it wasn't the best. In particular, I remember a story my mother and my father telling me when we would go on vacation. There was a lot of damage being done to our home. Sadly, someone had broke into the home and defecated in the toilet and put some racist slurs in it. And that was just in early 1990s. So you can only imagine, like, prior to that, like they had a lot of issues. I remember in elementary school, walking home from Star School, being called the N-word here and there. And, going home, asking our parents, like, what was that word? And at the tender age of 6 or 7, you can't really explain something like that to children, because me being a 6-year-old, I don't look at someone of a different race and say that, they're a threat to me or they're bad people. And I just remember even in 6th grade walking home. And at that point, I knew it was bad and it was wrong. And my brother and I were the only white children in our local school in 6th grade. And going home and asking my mom, what the N-word was. And at that point, enough was enough. And she went to the school. We all had a meeting. And when you walked away, you had children looking at us like we did something wrong because their friend is in trouble. I think it comes a point where we all have to have that uncomfortable conversation with our children and say, this is right and this is wrong. If you see this happening, step up, say something, tell a teacher, go home, tell your parent, tell whoever it is, because, at 6 years old, I shouldn't be questioning what a word is. And even when my sister and I and cousins were the first Black children in Star School growing up as well. And it was a little bit of rough then, because my parents would have to come up to the school because some of the school teachers would say, well, how do you teach these kids? And it's like, it's just like, you teach them like how you would teach any other children. So I think it was a little bit like confusion in the beginning. But after, I would say, middle school on, it got better because the community got more diverse. In high school, Kimball, it was a melting pot at that point. And I pray that it continues to be more diverse, but it got better, I would say, more in high school for me.
Okay, thanks. So there's a follow-up question from Paul Curtis, which is, what vision do you have for your family going forward in this area?
My vision is that I stay in Royal Oak and we stay in Royal Oak and we continue to make my ancestors proud by telling their story, by showing people that, like, you can coexist with African Americans and people of color in any city, and know that, like, at the end of the day, you never know someone's story, because I feel like my family contribute a lot to Royal Oak, coming back from all the way to 1865. So I would just say, like, just continue to be vocal about the changes that you want in your community.
Thank you. So there's one more question. I don't know. There's actually a few more questions, but this is the third one that was in the chat when I started. I don't know if you can answer this. When will white parents have the talk with our kids about racial capitalism and white supremacy in our lives? I
think that's kind of hard. I would think when they are able to come to you and ask the questions, then I think they're old enough to understand. But even at a very young age, you should be able to buy some books and sit down and read with them and ask them questions and see if they have questions to ask you or to answer. I think for me personally, I had to have that talk with my son at the age of 6. And I thought that was very early, only because even in the Royal Oak schools, he was still a victim of racism, where he wasn't allowed to go to a birthday party because he was brown. And, every day he'd come home and but I love this child. I love this classmate. And I said, well, some people, their parents don't understand. So they're speaking out loud and the kids are bringing this home. So even at 6 years old, it's pretty young, but sometimes you still have to have that conversation. I guess when they come to you is when you could be more vocal. but it's never too young to open up a book to talk about, you know, racism and things like that.
I think oh, sorry. Arv, do you want to ask one more?
Or there are a couple more in the chat, but I know Belem had her hand up.
Yeah, why don't we jump to Belem and Miles for their question real quick, and then we'll go to Treva's.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. So I wanted to ask you, I know you and I have kind of talked a little bit about this, but I was wondering if you could share what your children's experience of what it means, what it means to your kids to grow up in a community that is predominantly white.
For them, they have a white father. So I believe for them, they all they see is a lot of different races and a lot of white people. For them, they don't look at the community, the white community, as a threat or scared or anything negative, but they do find there is some children that are following their parents' footsteps where there is racism going on. For them, they are very vocal and say, you know, this is not okay. They'll come home to me and say things, and you know, I'm quick to write a teacher or sit down and have a conversation with a teacher. Even in the middle schools, you know, my son was shown a very very despicable video that had the N-word, and this was played by a teacher. And you know, you're supposed to send these kids to the safe place, and you know, the teacher is showing them something that, you know, that I'm not okay with, and my child knows that it's not okay. So they're really good with coming home and telling me, Mom, this is what's going on. How do I figure this out? How do I go on with the situation? So I think for the most part, they do okay because they have a strong mother and they know that they can speak up and tell someone this is not okay, and then come back and follow up with me. Hopefully I answered that question pretty good.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
Awesome. We, as long as you've got time, Keisha, we've got one more question from the chat. And then I think that Rich is headed in a good direction there too. Treva is involved heavily with the Royal Oak schools as well. I think you know her. Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on the Royal Oak suspension of Black students at such a higher rate than white students, and what you've been involved with RAMPA and you know, the work that that organization is doing?
I think everybody should get to know RAMPA, and that's an amazing group of mothers and parents that are fighting for our children and children of color and Black children in our schools. I think it's ridiculous. The numbers are so disproportionate where, you know, it shouldn't even be an issue, and that's why we're speaking on it right now. Growing up, I even seen it in the Royal Oak schools where you would see more your Black and brown children of color being in the office more, some of them expelled or suspended for lengthier times. I think there needs to have more conversations about this in the school board, along with sitting down with the superintendent and saying, you know, this is not okay. I just think that there has to become a day where Black children, children of color, and white children are treated equally when there's something that they've done wrong. And I think it's crazy because, you know, you start at school and then we trickle down from the school. So you're going to continue to see this in school. You're going to continue to see it when they're outside of school, when they're much older. I think the example needs to start right now. And I think they need to be able to speak on something and take from these teachers and our parents and actually listen, and even listen to the children and say, this is not okay. You know, I feel this kind of way. Then you're going to continue to get people that are angry and upset, and children that will feel like they've been picked on, which they have been. I just think that there needs to be change, and people need to acknowledge that.
I've just shared the Facebook page for RAMPA in the chat if anybody is interested in a little bit more information about that. RAMPA, that acronym that we keep using, is the Royal Oak Multicultural Parent Association. Lakeesha is a very active member, as well as some of our other club members and some newly elected school board members as well. So I think that we're beginning to see some of those conversations happening.
I mean, we definitely need progression. Like, So many people say that Royal Oak has progressed. We're still far from that. We still need to push forward. We all need to be in solidarity where we're working together. So many people say all lives matter. Well, if they all matter, then let's work together so that the other, people of color can feel the same way. That's how I feel about it. We're far from progression, but we'll get there, I guess, eventually.
Mike, do you have one last quick question for Lakeesha?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for coming and talking with us today about this. I guess I'll try to be real quick. I've lived in Tennessee and now in Michigan. I'm originally from California. And because of the way I look, I get pulled over by some white people, and they start telling me these crazy, insane stereotype stories about Black people. And honestly, I think there are some people who are quite frankly insane out there. And I don't know how to deal with those guys. I mean, I throw it back in their face, but they think it's okay just to, I don't know, they think it's okay just to go around spewing it. And I mean, I don't have to live with it like you do. I just get pulled aside once in a while and get told these crazy stories, but I can't imagine what it's like for your family to have to live with that. You can't even hide from it, from people like that in a way. That maybe I'm not a target, obviously, but I really appreciate you talking today about this subject, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everything that you just said, and I appreciate you taking the stance and saying, that's wrong. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And for anyone to think that, this is just us being brats and we need to be pacified or giving them what they want. We've been wanting this for over 200, 300 years. Let's remember that, being free technically in America, I mean, Black people have been enslaved longer than we have been free in America. Just 40 or 60 years ago, we just were able to drink with white people. I think it's those older generation people that need to just kind of go away for us to make a move and move forward. And I think, us being a great community that we are in Royal Oak, and I do love Royal Oak, and I do love the people that are in it. I think that we just need to be together and be able to listen to our citizens and listen to your neighbors and say, you know what, Keisha's experience sucked and we need to do better. We need to make sure that her children are good and the children around them. And I think that won't happen until there's people like you stand up together and say, you know what, your way of thinking is wrong. Sometimes you can't beat a dead horse. You have to move on to the next person and just hope that that person has that good listening ear, because it takes for someone to listen for they can actually move forward. And having these people listen right now in the Zoom meeting, hopefully it could reach the next person. I just pray that we all can come together eventually and just say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to be mute. I'm going to listen to what she has to say. I've got a lot of people say that they respect me. That's great. Respect me and respect my neighbors, and make sure you use that voice for them as well.
Good words. Lisa.
Guess I'm the last one, my friend. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right. I'm going to ask this because I'm sure people want to know what's next for you, love. What fabulousness are you going to bring to the city, and what are your goals?
Okay, so I'm not done yet, because like I said, it's not a movement, it's not a moment, it's a movement. So we got to keep moving forward. I want to use my platform to help the youth, in which I've been doing over the summer. COVID sucks. Thank God I've got my vaccination, so I can be a little bit more freer and vocal, but I'm still going to be safe, wear my mask and all that good stuff. But I want to do more for the youth. I want to be able to do more team meetups. I hope and pray that we get some parents involved. Over the summer, we had a good turnout a couple times, and we had some small ones where I think that if parents are involved, the children will get involved. And then they'll realize it's a lot more fun when they've got their parents on their back, listening to their story. You know, when I'm listening to my niece, she's coming to me and saying, it's Black History Month. Thank you guys for having me here. And I have to go back to what my niece said. She said to me, she's at the Royal Oak Middle School. Hey, Keisha, my history teacher told me that I asked her, can we learn about Black history? And the teacher said, well, there's a month for that. That's in February. Black history is American history, and that's 365 days a week. I mean, you have to go back and, I mean, it's crazy. So when February came, she asked, hey, teacher, can we learn about Black history? The teacher gave her a piece of paper and told her to go look online for things. So I think what we need is some teachers in that school can teach us about Black history. And you have to understand that a lot of Black history isn't taught until after high school, but I think it needs to get into the high school and even into the middle school. We need to get rid of some of those books that are telling the person who won the war. But from what I understand, I thought we were all free, so we need to talk about all that good stuff. But so that's where I want to be more involved in the youth and the middle school and high schools and talk about Black history and what they can do to help their neighbors and their friends be a, what's the word? To be a, I forgot what the word is, just to be their backbone and help them out. Black people are hurting, so you need to be checking on them, seeing what you can do for the community. But like I said, I definitely want to do more for the children and the youth. Those are my goals, and hopefully by spring we can do more meetups and do more things with their children. So, yay!
Well, I hope you know that we've got your back, and so keep us posted, and we'll be at every single one of those things. So
yeah, thank you.
I'm sure that this conversation could go on much longer, but we're so grateful for your time, and thanks for coming to speak to us. And
yeah, thank you guys so much. If you want to learn more about my history, it's Elizabeth and Henry Hamer, and Acorn it's an old book. Royal Oak Acorn. You can find all that information about my history, and they're right in the Royal Oak Cemetery. So if you're jogging or walking through it, you'll see that my family entire history in there too. So
that's so awesome.
Thank you guys.
Maybe when we can finally do events together, we can do a little Royal Oak history tour.
Yeah,
all together. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Lakeesha.
Yep.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
you too.
Bye.
Good. We are so thankful for that time and opportunity. We've been dropping some different links and resources in the chat. So if anyone is interested in following up on some of these things, you can grab it there. We'll also send it out in an email later. Speaking of our wonderful community and improving our wonderful community, Shar Douglas, can you speak a little bit about the newly created Royal Oak Civic Foundation?
Yes, definitely, and thanks, Lauren.
Awesome.
Just yesterday, the Royal Oak Civics Foundation announced its existence. This is a 501c3 charity, which was inspired by the desire by the city of Royal Oak to be able to accept foundation grants from foundations that can only donate to a 501c3 charity. And so its roots are actually in roots of an organization of committees within the city that were raising money, like the Animal Shelter, the Nature Society, the library, etc. And out of that came the inspiration to create this independent 501c3 that will continue to support those city activities and programs that it always had, but has a greater mission to serve the overall community. And this was reaffirmed, in fact, by the City Commission at our planning session last week, where the Commission acknowledged the needs of underserved populations at this time in the face of COVID, and support the Foundation's first activity, which is to raise funds for 3 organizations serving food, I've lost my phrase, the need for food in our community. Food insecurity, that's it. So we are raising funds for Blessings in a Backpack, the Open Hands Food Pantry, and the Salvation Army's food program. We received a generous gift from Robertson Homes of $16,000. They're donating $200 for every home that they sell at Normandy and Delamere by the new park. So we're taking $7,500 of their donation, and we will match up to that amount as raised by those three charities. So you can go to our webpage, which is romi.gov/ROCF. That's ROMI.gov/ROCF. And you'll find links to those three charities, and you can donate that way. We also now have a Facebook page, so you can find us on Facebook, and please like our Facebook page, because this campaign runs through March 1, but after that, the foundation will continue to raise money and identify needs to be met in the community. Questions?
That's so wonderful. Any questions for Shar about this new organization?
Oh, in fact, I have my poor, oh, it's backwards. My poor man's slide here.
Nope, that's perfect. Good. So we've shared the link to both the government website and the Facebook group in the chat. So we'll get people following that and talking about that. And we're glad to have it. Thanks for the information.
Thanks for the opportunity to tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Laurie, can I jump in here quickly? Shar, could you clarify?
Yeah,
did you say 16,016 or did you say 60,060?
16,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much. Well, if there's no questions about that, I'm sure if things pop up, go ahead, feel free to put them in the chat, and Shar can get back to you with specifics about that new organization. Can we move on to Democratic Party announcements? Is there anyone here from the MDP, OCDP that would like to update us about anything new? No? Okay. Paul Weil, you're on the call. Do you want to give us an update about what the precinct delegates are up to?
Actually, there's not much to update. So we met in January, but don't have anything taking place this month. So that's all. Thanks.
Oh.
Good. No problem.
Lauren, I was trying to unmute myself when you were asking about OCDP. Can I give a quick?
Oh, sorry, Arv. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, since no one else is available, I'll just say that our new county chair, Jody Lamacchia, chaired the first meeting as chair, I believe, and the committees have all done their first meetings and are getting organized. And I just wanted to point out that I'm not serving on the executive committee, but I signed up for committees, and anyone can. And so I've been assigned to 3 committees, so there's plenty of work being done. If you want to be involved, just hop in.
Cool. Thanks for that information. We'll move on to our elected officials report then. If you are an elected official on the call right now, if you could go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll get to those reports. There's lots of important things happening across the state, definitely in the county. I'm sure that there are questions about COVID and vaccines. Kyle, why don't you go ahead and get us started? City Commissioner Kyle DeBuck.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Sorry, I've been off camera because I'm making my children a late breakfast. One thing that I'll cover today is we had some significant activity at our meeting on Monday with regard to our environmental sustainability plan. We got our report from the Environmental Advisory Board that has been delving into the city's carbon footprint so that we have a baseline to understand, goal setting that we can aspire to. And we, by act of the commission, formally established our goals as being 40% net zero by 2030 and 100% net zero by 2050. And the report also showed that, while we intend to do everything we possibly can as a city, and we will, we're going to lean in heavy on this, of the city's total carbon footprint, we only account for about, I think, like 2.5% or 1.4%, sorry, of the total carbon footprint of the city. And what that means is, we're going to need to have some real serious resident engagement on this. We'll all be in this together. The city will certainly be leading. We'll certainly be working with our new leadership at the school district to see what the school district can do on their end. We'll work with the county, the hospital systems, and OCC to see how they can lean in. But the business community and residents are really going to have to, be a significant part of this effort. So now that we've got this this goal and this baseline, we're going to start establishing the tactics that we're going to pursue and building sort of an engagement campaign for residents and for businesses. We're going to be looking at what kind of policies can we pursue, whether it be simply giving people best practices or creating development incentives to encourage green building or encourage residential upgrades. These are the things that we're going to be considering to help drive us toward this goal. So that's real tangible forward movement on this. I really want to thank Dr. Amanda Herzog, who chairs the Environmental Advisory Board and has been a driving factor of this. I know Paul Weil leaned in really heavily on this and brought some expertise to help get us to this point. Of course, Tom Reagan is a long-standing member of the Environmental Advisory Board who helped build it into what it is today. So I'm not sure there's other members here that I should recognize, but I think at the announcements, that's kind of a top line where we're at. But I think Amanda at the announcements might share a little bit more detail with you all on where we're going with this. So thank you all for your support of this, and I'm really excited to get moving. One other point on that is we did just have our City Commission strategic planning, and lots of conversations about stormwater runoff and this, kind of aging infrastructure or ill thought out infrastructure that's not meeting the demands of current weather patterns and residents. And what do we do? And clearly we're going to need to establish goals on that front as far as how much water do we want to put into the ground. So I was having long conversations with the engineer about, what if we establish a goal that by such and such year we're capturing the first inch of every rainfall and putting that back into the ground and put it into our stormwater systems. So that would be another component of our environmental sustainability plan. I think my other commissioners, fellow commissioners, have other things to update you on. So that is it for me. Thanks, everybody.
Kyle, I think there might have been a few questions. Paul, do you have a question for Kyle?
Not really a question, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Julie Lyons-Bricker, our sustainability manager, will be our speaker in April, and so she'll be able to elaborate on our what we're going to call our sustainability and climate action plan that needs to be developed in order to really, chart our course going forward. So so please come to the April meeting and hear Julie Lyons-Bricker speak about our sustainability and climate action plan development.
And Julie's been a driving force on city staff to make this happen. She has been the ally making it happen at City Hall. So, definitely kudos to her and come listen to her speak.
Tim, do you have a question for Kyle also? No, okay, thanks. Just making sure. Monica, why don't we hear from you next so that we can keep our—
Lauren, I think Keisha has a question.
I did. I think I was hitting the little button to speak. Kyle, this is for you. Do you know an estimated time when you guys will start that human commission board, and what's the process and how's it going? Because that's something I definitely want to get involved with.
Absolutely, and you and I have talked about this, and I'll definitely be tapping you when it comes time to start taking applications for people to sit on the board. We, our legal team and city manager and staff put a bunch of work into that last fall, and where it's landed is kind of we are deciphering whether or not, because we would be building this around the human rights ordinance, which we passed at the commission table, was challenged by some people in the community, and was then enacted by a vote of the residents of Royal Oak. So the question is, if we build a human rights commission that makes reference to the HRO or having any authority over the enforcement of the HRO, because the HRO is voted on by the people of Royal Oak, does this have to go to the ballot and be voted on by the people of Royal Oak? So we're trying to get absolute clarity on that, so we can move forward and make this happen. So I would say at the latest, we'll have it on the ballot this fall. But if we find a way to get this done at the table, it will happen soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good update. Thanks for that information. Monica, I'd like to jump to you so that we can have our city updates all together. Our newest city commissioner, Monica Hunt.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you. And first, I'd like to thank Keisha for sharing her family and her history. I think that's very important. Like you said, Black history is American history, and anything that we can continue to learn about, not just history in general, but history of our city, it's a great thing. So thank you for that. And like she said, and like Lauren said, her family's history, or her family, is showcased in the clay mosaic that's in the new City Hall building, which is reopening on Monday. It's reopening at reduced hours, sort of hours that are similar to those of the Secretary of State. So if you have any city business to do, those are reopen, or that building is reopening soon. And if it's just to go take a look at the clay mosaic, go in, take a look around at the new building. It's a great building. It is more energy efficient than the last building. It allows for easier navigation for doing your business within the city, and for city employees of getting their jobs done. It's a great new space for meetings to take place. There's room for community engagement. So just take a look at that building if you get a chance, but just know that it is reopening on Monday at reduced hours. Also, the new police station is now operational. It is also a beautiful new energy efficient building. It's about 42,000 square feet. It's very modern. It's a functional and clean building, and it offers space for meetings and trainings for the community and for the officers involved. But I think the most important aspect of it is that it provides more safety for the staff and for the police officers and the inmates and prisoners as they're being booked and transported. It's a building that is very much needed. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to tour the old station, but while the work was getting done, it just wasn't a very efficient and functional place. And our police department and police force deserve a clean and safe place to work in. So take a look at that when you get a chance. Also, I know that there may be tours coming down the road. Of course, there's COVID restrictions in place, but just so that you're aware, those two buildings are now open and functioning and operating. And that is it.
Great, thanks so much for that. Any questions for Monica? No, doesn't look like it. Awesome, thanks so much. Jim Ellison, how about you let us know what's going on at the state level?
Did you want to stay with the city folks and get them all done before you come to me? Because you still got Pat and you still got Mike.
I know that our city commissioners were kind of condensing their announcements. Okay. Pat or Mike, do you have anything to add to that? Or did Kyle and Monica cover everything?
No, we kind of split it up so that there wouldn't be all 7 of us talking and you know, pretty much jamming up your entire agenda. So we split it. There'll be 3 or 4 people talking today, and then next month the other 3 or 4 will talk. So you won't hear from all 7 of us at every meeting. So I'm not on today, so I'm just listening.
Oh, but the mayor does have something to say.
Sure. Mayor Mike Fournier, you want to jump in now and give us some updates?
Sure. Good morning. And if Commissioner Douglas says I have something to say, I can't argue with her. So there are just
thank you.
A quick updates. First, Keisha, you know, thank you for sharing your story. I've heard about your family's history, you know, at a high level, but to hear it directly from you was a privilege and very worthwhile. And so we're very grateful you shared your story. It's inspirational. It's helpful, and certainly, you know, I think all of us take away something that we can use in our lives to make things better at every opportunity in every corner. So as a history buff, I really enjoyed what you had to say, and certainly your family has made Royal Oak proud, and you make Royal Oak proud, and you know, you'll carry on the long tradition in that regard. We're highly confident in that. A quick, maybe just 30 seconds on marijuana. As you guys know, we had a long, arduous process to sort through all the details about how the legalization of cannabis would you know, find its way into Royal Oak, and how we would do it and administer it and get, you know, established businesses here in the city. It took some time. Clearly, what came out of the state wasn't, no offense to Jim, it wasn't his call, but there was a lot of things. Anytime you have legislation and you get some people on the other side of the aisle that want to get their hands in the cookie jar, it makes it difficult often for, you know, us on the municipal level to figure out how to do things right in the way we want to do it within the framework that they've given us. And so we had a lot of thought, debate, we pushed forward. Monday, February 1st was the date of the first set of applications where they needed to come in. We got 37 total applications, of which 31 were retail, 3 were for micro, and 3 for grow facilities. You know, the way we set this up is we tried to make it as best we could an apolitical process. We see across the state and other municipalities. I was talking to Rosalind from Madison Heights, the mayor there. I mean, they just have so much issue and fallout from, you know, everyone accusing everyone of political, you know, deviancy and all of this. And so we really stayed out of it. You know, we set our criteria. We're having an administrative process to approve these licenses. We even saw, like, during our discussions about
Getting ready to go on, sweetie. So. Yes,
we had individuals, I mean, quite frankly, lying and spreading rumors in this community that were destructive and not helpful to the conversation, and what appears to be something for their own financial motives. So we didn't see these applications even come in until, you know, they started to come in until Thursday. They had months to bring them in. So we know that there's a lot of dynamics at play here. And so for us, I think we've set up the process just like where and who gets a license and where they go. But it's going to take like an hour at least for our clerk to sort through each one of these applications, validate, verify the information. So there's still going to be some time. We're going to do it right. Whatever we do, we want to do it right with professionalism and give everybody a fair shake. So, you know, there'll be more to come probably next meeting, some announcements, hopefully. And just like you, the commissioners are sitting on the sidelines watching and waiting and seeing. It's an apolitical process, the way we set it up. And so, you know, we set the framework and now we'll see what shakes out of it. So that's an update on the marijuana. Also, you know, I don't know if the announcement was made, but, you know, one of our members here is actually going to be on the Planning Commission. Paul Curtis, I appointed him to planning. His first meeting is going to be on Tuesday. We're really excited about, you know, his professional experience and his personal experience, and clearly, you know, the values he shares with us, and putting that into action when it comes to things we need to do on the Planning Commission related to inclusivity and housing, as well as, you know, really helping us motivate and raise the bar when it comes to environmental standards and stormwater management. So very excited to have Paul on board, big thinker, and, you know, this will be great. Maybe one last thing, you know, all these things that we're doing, you know, take time and effort, and we have a great slate of people that are committed to taking our progressive values and putting them into action. We have people like Amanda and Paul, you know, working with Julie on the environmental, you know, initiatives that we have. We got, you know, all of our commissioners, and in fact, we have, which I can't say I've seen this in such a, I'm trying to think back when we had this many people running, but this year we are going to have 5 people that are up, their seats are up for City Commission just by the way things worked, with Commissioner Lavasser heading north abruptly, you know, just moving north, I guess, leaving us high and dry, and with the unfortunate passing of Commissioner Gibbs. So we have Commissioner Colo and Commissioner Hunt, who have hit the ground running and have done amazing work already. And then, of course, we have Commissioner Macy, Commissioner Douglas, and myself that are all going to be on the ballot. And so this is this is a good thing for us because we have the ability to retain our seats. But, 5 people, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of communication we have to do with the community. And the first step that we need to do, we usually find ourselves getting all our signatures in last minute, but I think this year we're really going to have to, given the COVID restrictions and safety issues, we're really going to have to lean on our friends and family, neighbors and partners to help us get our pages. We need 500 signatures, probably 600. And I know Lauren and Tom and others in the club have really stepped up and offered up some great ideas to help, get these amazing candidates on the ballot. I really think, Monica and Brandon are working hard. They're every day they're reading their material. They're coming to work for us. And I think that, it's going to take an entire community to ensure that we get the right people in. At this time, I don't know of anybody else that's pulled petitions from the clerk's office. Nobody else has. But, they always come around the corner. Whether it's one person that gets on the commission or 2 from the other side, can create chaos. As we saw with, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Washington. We've seen all this years ago here in Royal Oak. We're sort of the litmus test, the portender of what happens at the national level. So I think it's important for all of us to figure out a way to safely get the right people on the ballot, and so we will hopefully get help from the club members here through this process, because it's so important. We got to hold if we're going to do the things that we need to get done, like Kyle mentioned about, our environmental sustainability efforts, if we're going to get these things, we need all the votes we can get to get it done. We need all the influence and pressure to motivate city staff to get it done. So with your help, we can do amazing things. And I'll just point to Paul and Amanda, volunteering in their capacities, just 2 people stepping up have really helped us as a commission move the bar. In fact, we're following their leadership to get what we need to get done for our values. So I'm talking a lot here, but I just want to let you know it is an election year and time flies, especially during this environment. And we appreciate any support you can have to help us forge forward and continue the work we're doing.
No, we appreciate the updates greatly, Mayor Fournier. On that note, right, gearing up for another election, we don't have any time off, right, following November 2020. We're going to start collecting volunteers and trying to organize some efforts around gathering these signatures, since we can't have in-person events and we can't pass the nominating petitions around during our meetings like we normally would. We want to help out these members, right, as best as possible to get those signatures organized. I just dropped a link in the chat with a survey to fill out if you're interested at all in helping us collect these signatures. We'll follow up and get back to you. We're thinking about doing a couple different things, but the first one would be to, if you're interested in helping, we'll get you a packet of the 5 nominating petitions, and then you can circulate those amongst your neighborhood, friends, family, right, whatever is best for you, so that we can try and get those in as soon as possible. So we'll follow up with that, but that link is in the chat and will be emailed out later too. So that will be, step 1 in helping with these efforts. Mayor Fournier, there are a couple questions in the chat. Could you talk a little bit about some of these? We've talked about the environmental work the city is trying to do, and Monica mentioned that both of the brand new buildings have a lot of environmental and energy saving features. Could you talk about what those are a little bit?
Yeah, so right now, if you look at it, it is a night and day difference between the 2 facilities. And this was one of our criteria that we moved forward with when, it came to making a decision whether or not we refurbish the existing buildings or move into new buildings. And one, just like our homes, the fact that they're better insulated, that they're built, with HVAC systems that consume less, energy. Right out of the gate, they are energy efficient. We did look at doing some geothermal in the police building. Unfortunately, when we did the drill tap, we ran into natural gas. Ironically, natural gas continues to be a problem, even when you're trying to go, in another direction. We're from City Hall's point of view. It really comes down to a better layout, better use of space. And the buildings being LEED certified. So, well, I shouldn't say certified. We didn't want to spend the money to certify them, but we did build them to LEED standards. So that's really, I mean, when you look at, like, for example, at the police station, you know, people on, like, in the middle of winter that were on the second or third floor would have to have their windows wide open because it was freezing on the first floor and, you know, a sauna on the second and third floor. And so, I mean, we were just literally burning money, burning and putting CO2 like a factory, like it was our job in these buildings. And of course, these were built in a time where energy was abundant and we didn't really understand or care about the environment. So we also have some in front of City Hall, which I hope we can really expand everywhere in the city and really drive to push it. But we have some permeable pavement as well. You know, fortunately, in that part of town, there is some sand, so we can have the water go into the ground versus into the stormwater, which is better for the environment, better for our costs, things of that nature. So the buildings are built to LEED standards, and they're also the police building is you know, some of the, unfortunately, because of the frivolous lawsuits, we had to do some thrifting, but we left options open in the next couple years to add like water, gray water, recycled, green roof, and things like that for the police station that we hope to add on over time. But given what we bonded for and given, you know, construction costs going up because of the frivolous lawsuits, you know, we had to make those as options down the next couple of years. So there'll be even more additions of environmentally friendly technology implemented into these buildings over the years.
Great, thanks so much. Any other questions for our city commissioners? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mayor Fournier. Have a great day.
Thank you.
State Rep Jim Ellison, on to you, please.
Yeah, if I ever volunteer to give up my time to Fournier again, please slap my hand. Mike kind of took up all my time, so I will make my report as brief and concise as I can. Republicans suck. That's it. Only kidding. Only kidding. We finally got the business up in Lansing. We are back to full schedule now. We're meeting 3 days a week for the next couple of months at least. That's the plan. Committees are starting to meet and legislation is starting to run. However, the big news out of Lansing this week was the 4 bills that the Republicans put in front of us to distribute the federal money that we received. And it was a big floor battle because they're hanging on to some of that money. Even if we don't spend it by September, it goes back to the feds. So the governor was preferring that we get allocate all the money and then dole it out as we need it because everybody needs it. Republicans didn't want to trust the governor with that decision, so they only gave some parts of the money, and they've tie-barred many parts of many parts of the legislation to each other. In essence, what that means, if you've got a bill that's tie-barred to another bill, if one of those bills does not pass, the other one doesn't. And so one of the tie bars is that the education dollars won't be distributed unless the governor cedes some of her responsibilities that she has as governor over to local health, the county health departments for decision making. So it's basically an attack on the governor and her executive powers that come with the job that every other Republican governor had at the same time that no one complained about. So, and then the as a side note, the Senate is refusing to approve any of her appointments until she starts playing their game. And it's just the attitude this year for start of this session is probably the worst I've ever seen it because everybody's angry at everybody. And you know, we're still reeling from the issues of carrying guns into the Capitol, even though the Capitol Commission said no open carry, they're still carrying. It's our members that are carrying. So a number of us Democrats, myself included, we have our bulletproof vests and we will wear them when we need it. We're thinking that once the impeachment trial starts in the Senate, I think we're going to be wearing our vests because that's when it's going to get uncertain. So it just really is a tough situation up there, but we are finally getting down to do the work we're doing. The committees are finally meeting. You know, Mike mentioned getting the hand in the cookie jar. Well, the cookie jar is on the other side of the aisle, and the opening is only big enough for little spindly Republican hands. We don't even get close. So our role up there this year, this session is defense. We've got to play be ready to react to anything that they put on the floor, because they have done a number of things to take away our voices. For example, I was removed from the health committee because they didn't want us to have that many seats. And so they took me off and replaced me with a Republican. So it's the kind of, those are the kind of games they're playing. They're gearing up for the election in 2022 because they know they're going to have a problem with redistricting. So they're doing everything they can to try to get their message across. And they've got a new class of freshmen on the Republican side that they're not nice people. They don't know how to wear masks. They're obnoxious and they're loud, but that basically describes everybody on the side of the aisle. So anyways, I'm glad I'm sorry I'm sounding so pessimistic here, but this is the reality of going to work up in Lansing. And you gotta put on the public mask of trying to interact with these people because you need them to get stuff done. But it's very disheartening and it's very tough for us to keep our enthusiasm up and keep our momentum up. But we got a good group of people in our Democratic caucus, and we're fighting the battle, and we'll fight it till it's over. So that's all I've got. Anybody have any questions?
It's not pessimistic, Jim. We know you're fighting for us, and we know that is becoming harder and harder. There were a couple questions in the chat. Mayor Fournier wants to know what you're doing about Headley.
Oh, that is one bright spot. I am vice chair. I am minority vice chair of the local government municipal finance. We had our first meeting the other day. The chairman of the committee is Representative Julie Calley, who is a very reasonable person. She's Brian Calley's wife. I've served with Julie for the last 4 years, and we have a good relationship. And I've already talked to Julie privately about changing our municipal finance structure totally in the committee, and she agreed that it's something we need to look at. So as we had our meeting, our first meeting the other day, I ended the meeting with a speech to my colleagues, mostly my Republican colleagues, telling them it's way beyond time for us to reevaluate how we finance our municipal government. And my Headley bill will be my Headley bill I offered last year died for lack of action. It will be reintroduced. And what it basically does is it restores the ability to have a Headley roll up. When Headley was first voted in, they had the provision of rolling down the tax rate or rolling up the tax rate, depending on the condition of the economy at the time and the value of your properties. And that was working okay until Prop A was passed, which kind of inserted this whole taxable value level, which is controlled by a statistic rather than natural progression of value. But it also, Prop A also took out the Headley roll-up provision. So right now, Headley can, under the current laws, Headley can only roll down. So if your property values increase, your tax rate goes down, compounded by the fact of Prop A having the effect on your property values rolling down. So basically, we've got a rolling down. And all my bill wants to do is put that provision that was already in Headley of a roll up. So if the economy is stagnant and you're not getting any increased value, it allows you to roll your tax rate up to capture inflation and cost of living. So we'll see where that goes. But I am sensing that my colleagues on the local government finance committee are receptive, at least, to listening to ideas. So that is, I've told them that's one of my goals for the next few years, is try to revise how we finance local governments, because we are one of the worst in the country. Everybody says our municipal finance plan is convoluted, confusing, and compounded by the fact that we always get screwed out of state shared revenue. So we are working to fix that.
Krista had a question as well. She said, I saw several gubernatorial appointees were vetoed. Was there a reason for this other than partisan politics? What are the implications of these vetoes?
And that's exactly what it was. That's the Senate. The Senate has refused to approve any of her appointments. And it is, I mean, they've admitted it. They're holding on to those until she starts playing ball with them. And the Senate is even, it's too bad Mallory's not here to talk about it, because I think she's as fired up as anybody. But it's strictly politics. There's no reason for it. we've got these committees that are in place to do a job with people on them, and the Republicans in the Senate will not approve those people. So those seats remain empty. And so the value these people bring to the committee is lost until such time as the governor agrees to play the game by their rules and not the rules that are given to the executive body, which is the governor. So it's that's why it's so ugly. That's why it's so frustrating, because they're sensing that they're on a losing streak right now. They got their butts handed to them in the election, and you know, the Trumpers are coming in. Most of the new class Republicans are Trumpers, and it's just, yeah. So I'm going down that same path again. I'll try to avoid it, but yeah, wearing a bulletproof vest to work nowadays is not fun unless you're a cop, I guess.
It's terrifying, and we're sorry that you're in that position, but thanks for working for us.
Yep, always be there.
Mm-hmm. And any pig updates to end on a lighter note then?
Any what?
Pig
pig updates? Yeah, damn animal keeps getting fatter and fatter. Yeah, it's an interesting, you know, we're faced with the quandary. He's not too big. He's no bigger than our biggest dog right now, but he got there in 3 months. So it's an interesting life with a pig. I don't recommend it for the faint-hearted, but it always is. It's helpful if you've got a good pig, and Momo's a good pig. He's very polite, and he's potty trained, and he does a good job. He's better than the dog. So, you know, as long as you got food and kibble for him, he's a happy boy.
Good. Well, we're glad to have Momo as our mascot. County Commissioner Penny Lubes, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks,
Hi,
Jim.
everybody. Yeah, Jim, I'm sorry to hear what's happening in Lansing. We have a different story in the county, and it's a pleasure to be at the county and work with Chair Woodward and our other commissioners. So I'm happy to announce that we recently approved $250,000 for an RFP, or request for proposal, for an action plan that will address homelessness in Oakland County. So our goal is to work with stakeholders and research and create an action plan to end homelessness in Oakland County. So that has just started. We also approved a one-time appropriation out of our budget for $10 million to address vaccines, contact tracing, and testing in Oakland County. We all know that vaccines are in such limited supply. The good news is that our doses are increasing every week. We started out with receiving 950 doses a week, and now we're up to a few thousand doses. So in Oakland County, the health department has vaccinated about 10,000 people. And the doses are distributed to different entities. So the county receives an amount of doses. The health systems, the hospitals, Beaumont, St. John's, Henry Ford, St. Joe's, etc., receive a separate amount of vaccine doses. Then the pharmacies receive a third separate amount of doses to vaccinate the long-term residential or nursing home programs. So I'm sure everybody's aware that the state has developed different phases, and you can sign up for county vaccines through the internet on Save Your Spot, or call the nurse on call at 1-800-858-5533 to save a spot for a vaccination when the doses are available. We also have a Veterans Emergency Relief Grant. We have $182,000 set aside for that. So each veteran would receive up to $2,500. We have a grant for our manufacturers to reorganize and retrain, bringing state-of-the-art digital manufacturing to Oakland County. We have a grant for our cities to support restaurants in adapting their facilities for outside services. We recently, this last week, we sponsored a Youth in Government Day. We had about 70 students to learn more about the functions of county government. I was quite impressed at the questions they asked and their responses and their willingness to become involved in city government. We're working with our senior services. We have a pilot program with Amazon's Echo Show in American houses right now. So the Echo Show is a way to bring nursing home residents or long-term facility residents with their loved ones. Echo Show is similar to Alexa. It has the monitor with it. All you have to do is say, Echo, call Penny, and it will call your loved one. You can see them and talk to them. People 60 years and over can request and receive regular check-in calls from a volunteer who can make sure you're doing okay and spend time catching up, sharing news and updates with you. And somebody can sign up for that at our website, Oakland County Resources COVID. We have, the last one I'm going to talk about, and I see our Chair Woodward's also on the line, is Oakland County has our summer jobs posted on our website, and a group called Oakland Conservation District is now selling trees. So you can go to oaklandconservationdistrict.org to purchase trees by April 6th. They'll be delivered May 1st in Waterford. And this is a group that provides informational assistance to farmers, homeowners, educators, businesses, through demonstrations and workshops, wildlife habitat planning, and forestry assistance. So if you're looking for a tree, that's your place to buy one. That's it.
Fantastic. Any questions for Commissioner Lubes? No? Awesome. Thanks so much, Penny. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Oakland County Commissioner Chair Dave Woodward, you want to speak next?
Sure. And Penny covered a lot of, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, Penny covered a lot of the meat and potatoes. And so, I mean, let me help frame it up. I mean, if there was a question about the difference of a Democratic majority or Republican majority of Oakland County's governing board, it is the fact that it's not a question of if we're going to do these things to improve the lives of vulnerable populations, improve our public health, help our small business survive. It's a question of how we're going to do that. And that's exactly, I mean, Penny is our chair of our Public Health and Safety Committee, probably the biggest policy committee to, I mean, she's going to be tackling criminal justice reform, public health, I mean, issues addressing vulnerable populations, is doing a fantastic job. And she outlined, she did a great job at outlining the key things that are happening right now. I want to go a little bit deeper on the vaccine stuff, because many in the club and others around the area reach out regularly, and that's the focus. And we all share the frustration that despite Operation Warp Speed, any Star Trek fans out there, it's more of a putter. And fortunately, the new administration is pulling out all the stops to increase the supply. That's really what we're at. I'm happy to report that Oakland County has done a better job than any other county in the state of Michigan, based on the vaccines that come into us, getting into the arms within 7 days. We get an announcement on Friday what we're going to receive on Monday, and we have the infrastructure built up, in part because we have the Save Your Spot list, has over 300,000 people that have already signed up. Just because you sign up as like the last person on the list doesn't mean that you have to wait in front of all of those, because the groups of 1A and 1B, they'll still be lifted up, as well as kind of the regional proximity that we're finding that, I mean, it's a little surprising to me that people would rather wait a little bit longer to get a closer venue versus driving, I mean, to the Novi Showplace. I'm having a struggle to wrap my head around that, because I think most people on this meeting would have no problem jumping on the freeway for the 20-minute drive. But we're experiencing that Bottom line, we've got 5 permanent drive-through locations. We've got these mass vaccination sites. We've got additional temporary sites, and they're doing a better job on the deployment. We've got this our incredible public health office doing everything, pulling out all the stops. And as Penny mentioned, we fronted $10 million more to support the vaccination, increased testing, contact tracing, being acutely aware and looking at possibly new technology to spot and detect spread of the variant, the UK variant and the South African variant, to help help inform our public health response. And I feel very, very confident about that. The one of the shifts that had happened, and this happened this week, and it started last week. The hospitals were getting the larger percentage of all the vaccines the state was distributing, and that made sense. The 1A groups, the public health frontline workers, etc. That is shifting to a 60-40, 60% going to public health departments, 40% going to hospitals, and that will probably continue to shift more to health departments to help address those things. We are very focused and attentive on some of the equity issues. You can call in if you don't have internet access. We are very intentional about making sure our sites are in communities of color, and trying to address that as best we possibly can. The bottom line is that we don't have enough doses. Oakland County as a whole can, on our own, without adding any additional capacity, using our public health infrastructure, etc., can do about 20,000 vaccines a week. We have the ability to scale that up with additional staff capacity and everything, and that's why we approved some of that money. In addition to that, we are beginning partnerships starting this week with Meyer, with Honor Health, with some other health agencies, just to train them, because there's some requirements that you have to be able to do in order to be able to distribute the vaccine. We're going to be doing that, so that hopefully when we get to 20, 30, 40,000 vaccine shipments a week, because of the leadership in the White House, that we can easily get up there and be able to get those shots in the arms at the same rate that we're able to get them in, based on our weekly supply currently. So I'm happy to report that. I want to underscore another thing that Penny mentioned, our restaurant rescue initiative. We pumped out $7 million to local restaurants right before the holiday season. We are now pushing the other $3 million of a $10 million initiative to help with the weatherization. We call it weatherization. It's kind of a little bit misleading, but it's the help expand the footprint of restaurants. As it relates to Royal Oak, it's about another $200,000 to help support the outdoor igloos, tents, propane, etc., to help expand their footprint so that they can operate and start making be able to make ends meet with the reduced capacity since indoor dining started this week. Last thing I want to kind of put on the horizon, because of the Parks Millage renewal, we're going to undergo a massive infrastructure improvement of our park system. We are looking at potentially acquisition of additional green space across Oakland County. We're going to talk about the largest trail build-out network in Oakland County's history. All those things are in motion that are going to happen this year and next year, or begin happening this year and next year as a result of the overwhelming approved millage that voters adopted by nearly 80% in November. So very exciting. And I'll just conclude that as a caucus, we are going to be landing on a kind of our policy agenda outside the things that we're doing. We're responding to the pandemic of the moment, helping the economy recover. But there's a whole host of things that our group of 11 have lifted up as priorities, and we're going to hone in onto some core initiatives, and probably our next meeting be able to kind of talk in more detail about them or over the next couple months of things that we're doing. But we have a great group. We got some new people, and we're responding, and as the governing body leading Oakland County, leading with the values that we all share, we're able to make great things happen.
Great, lots of ground to cover. Brandon Colo was wondering, Dave or Penny, could you tell us a little bit about the new Veterans Assistance Program?
Sure. I'll jump in, Penny, and then feel free to jump in afterwards. This builds on, actually it was Penny that actually led the initiative that created a grant that helps support direct assistance to veterans. We have about 60,000 veterans across Oakland County that are vulnerable, economically vulnerable and have other needs. We launched an initiative to provide direct cash assistance to veterans, particularly during this pandemic. But we also supported the social organizations, the VFW halls, the American Legions, and so forth. This builds on that. The $2,500 grants that Penny talked about. It's an application. You go to the county website. You click on grants. Our Veterans Department, one of the most robust in the entire state. As long as you can demonstrate need and honorably discharged, veterans and their families are eligible for some cash assistance. And this is from state funding. The state expanded the Veteran Trust that allocates a certain amount of money towards to our county. And we are using those dollars to provide meaningful cash assistance. It could be for mortgage, rent, food, utilities, and other needs. And so, you put in your application is pretty seamless. And please spread it. We had a little bottleneck last time. Veterans are a group of people that are probably the last group of people to ask for help. So we've put some systems in place to really encourage. We want to make sure these dollars get out to help folks who need it. And Penny, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to it.
This is probably our third veterans grant in the last 12 months. And you are right. We had a hard time spending the money or giving the money away to veterans. Their stance is that there's somebody else more in need than I am. But this money is for veterans. Basically, if you have an honorable discharge, fill out the one-page application, you are going to receive some money.
Great, thanks for the information. And Penny, Commissioner Lubes did drop that link in the chat as well if you're interested. I don't know if some people are maybe either not following the chat or not able to see the chat. Tom Regan, and then echoed by a lot of other members, did contribute, not a question, but just a comment. He said, Commissioner Lubes and Chair Woodward, thank you for your commitment to ending homelessness in Oakland County. This is a perfect example of how elections make a difference and why it is so important for Democrats to control the county commission. Republicans control the commission for decades and did nothing to address this awful problem.
And Lauren, if I can, is
absolutely
the background to that. The reason that grant came in from the state that's allowing us to build this blueprint, its plan is to solve homelessness, children who are homeless, long-term, short-term, emergency homelessness issues. It's a result of this commission showing up with partners around the county, working with Senator Rosemary Bear, who sits on the Senate, who sits on the Appropriations Committee. I'm in awe. Got it through a Republican Senate, got it into a budget. The governor supported it, and when a lot of other things kind of got vetoed when the pandemic started, held on to this because it's so critical. And so this is 100% the result of Democratic leadership working together at all levels to make it happen. And so, I want to underscore Tom's point there. This stuff doesn't just happen. It happens because of leadership, and I'm incredibly proud to be part of this team.
Absolutely. Paul Weil, you've got a question for the commissioners?
Yeah, Dave, Penny, I'm sure you talked about the trail build out. I imagine that there's some public planning sessions that will take place prior to the trail build out. How is that true, and how would one participate?
Sure. So Oakland County Parks, working with Oakland County Economic Development, developed a master plan probably 12 years ago. It was something that was such a low priority. I didn't even know the master plan got developed. We have a dedicated staff person who's amazing, who's been with the county for, I'm probably approaching 20 years. And she's still with it and is going to be leading this effort. Short answer, yes. Part of the planning process, Gary McGilvery, who also represents a portion of Royal Oak, is the chair of our Oakland County Parks Commission, with Amanda Herzog, who sits on that. Over the next many months, they're going to spell out the planning process to use the allocated money that was part of this millage to support the trail build out. What we found, and again, I'm relying on the trail experts, that one of the harder steps to get trail development is the engineering design, the front end money. That's harder money to kind of come by. There's Michigan Trust Fund monies, there's and other foundation money. Is easier to kind of come fund the plan once the plan has been developed. And so we look at using this money largely to support the planning, to support the early stage, and really put on, to build off the master plan that currently exists. In addition, and I know Arv and others, right before the pandemic, there was a lot of interest potentially for some foundation to look even at, some of the space along the railroad in Royal Oak, and through Ferndale in this area, the CN railroad system. And I expect that to pick up. It's almost like a year ago, more than a year ago, that will pick up to kind of connect all these things. But the whole idea is to have lots of public hearings, lots of public input to kind of like dust off the trail master plan for Oakland County. During the millage, I was hoping to kind of get a sense like, okay, what are we looking at the next 10 years? 10 miles more trail, 20 more miles, 100 more miles. And it's a little bit harder because depending on what type of trail, all I can say it will be substantive. And we're talking about allocating upwards of potentially $1 million a year towards that effort in time. So this is one of the things this is a legacy project that is going to really intersect with mobility and recreation, and I'm incredibly excited. But so stay tuned, and then I'm gonna direct all questions to Amanda.
Great, thanks so much. Any other questions for our county commissioners? Nope, seeing none. Thank you so much, Commissioner Woodward and Commissioner Lubes. And we'll move on to our Royal Oak School Board, Tim Chahorski.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So yeah, really briefly, we had our first organizational meeting last month where we've elected our president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Deb Anderson will serve as president of the school board for the upcoming year. Marianne Van Heetsma will be the vice president. Marty Kyramone will serve as secretary, and Allison Sykes will serve as our treasurer for the upcoming year. Like anything, we're facing a bunch of craziness on the school board. We've got about 50% of the parents and residents wanting their children back in school. We've got 50% of the parents and residents wanting no face-to-face learning. We were presented with a proposal to go back to a hybrid face-to-face plan starting February 1st. I made a motion that we push that date back to March 1st. My reasoning was to allow our staff to get vaccinated. And many of the staff have been able to be vaccinated. I think it's a good start. I think that we could always obviously get more people vaccinated in a quicker fashion, but luckily teachers are a part of that group who can be vaccinated, and many of them have been. So I feel a little more comfortable with the back to school plan starting on March 1st. And I'd like to thank Representative Ellison for explaining the crazy money game they're playing with the governor's educational emergency fund, which is crazy to me. You're playing politics with money going to education. Makes 0 sense, but of course it's going to happen. And that's really all I have. I see that Trustee Haynes and Trustee Alexander are both on the call also. If I've missed anything, you guys let me know.
Can I add, Lauren? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, I figured you'd be the mouthpiece for us, so I'm so glad you raised your hand. Another great thing about pushing it off to March 1st as well, and it was part of my hope anyway, is that the plan we received wasn't robust enough. And what was great is the middle school was able to go back to the drawing board and add some additional perks to their plan. Part of it had to do with giving more instruction time, because the first plan that they gave had less instruction time than the students were getting now in the virtual environment. So round 2, they actually have more instruction time, which I think was very crucial. But yes, getting everyone vaccinated has been very important to us. So just wanted to add that piece in.
Absolutely. Mayor Fournier had a question for either of you or both of you. How do the new variants fit into the decisions that you're making or the accelerated vaccine rate? By the way, good luck. We appreciate the no-win situation that you're in. So Tim or Lisa, either, how are those things impacting the decisions that you're making? Are you going back and revisiting decisions?
Yeah, so one thing that we base a lot of the decisions on what we're doing within the school has to do with the feedback we're getting from the Oakland County Health Department. And we get a weekly report as to how many cases are in the county, vaccination rates, what have you. Mary Beth, the superintendent, shares that with us. We have discussions about it. And as the numbers have been going in the right direction, meaning the amount of folks who have COVID has been going down, deaths of course have been going down. So we're watching that. Right now I know that we aren't getting, I don't know if we've had discussion in regards to the variants. Tim, have you? I think right now we're looking at overall cases, and as COVID seems for Oakland County is going in the direction we hope it'll go in, which is down and out, we are making our decisions based on that. And our next school board meeting is next Thursday. So if you guys have any questions, join us for the meeting on Thursday.
Great, thanks for the information. Trustee Van Heetsma wasn't able to join us this morning, but she did send me a message. I just put it in the chat if anyone is interested, just reiterating about the March 1st beginning and feeling confident that things are in place to start then. Her email address is also there in the event that you have any questions directly for her. So thanks for that information. We know that this is a very, very tough time for all of us.
And Lauren, as you can see, Marianne did mention about back to sports. So sports are starting back on Monday. And for a lot of parents of sporties, it's a good thing. It's helping the kids with their mental well-being and trying to have some semblance of normalcy. So.
Absolutely, thanks for that. Any other questions for our school board? No? All right, seeing none, we're going to jump back to, in my rush to get to Lakeesha, we skipped over our treasurer's report. So Treasurer Ian Jenkinson, can you let us know where we're at financially?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a total income for the month of January of $1,679.43. That included some dues, because we had a lot of people issuing dues for the year. That also included donations we've received so far to the scholarship, the Tom Regan scholarship that we instituted, as well as some just additional donations, because a lot of people, and we really appreciate it when you pay your dues. We've seen some people that are doing, you know, $20 instead of $10, and so that extra part is a donation to the fund. In terms of expenses, we had the expenses for the Georgia postcard stamps that was withdrawn during January of $516. We also had our website fees renewing the hosting for the website of $56.32. We had Facebook ads up to the beginning of January of $303.11. And then we had voted last meeting to put $250 as a Kickstarter into the scholarship fund. Our current checking account balance is $3,733.05. And I'm using our savings account as the scholarship holding. And so that is currently at $779.44. So we've already surpassed the $500 goal that we were planning for this scholarship. So yeah, that's where things stand. Does anyone have questions for me yet about anything? All right.
Awesome. Our shared link in the chat is, it's also been in our recent club emails that you can pay dues online. If you do still want to pay via check, you can mail those directly to Ian, but we do have that Squarespace set up now so that you can pay through credit card. There's also a spot directly on that site below the dues payment that you can donate directly to the scholarship, just so that we are transparent about how your money is being used and how you would like your personal dues to be used for the club. We're giving you that option, so that's there. We're going to move on to the last section of our meeting and then adjourn for the day. We've just got a few calendar and new business announcements. We do have a bar night coming up on February 18th. We are going to do these monthly on the third Thursday. That's what we've been calling them. It's just a fun opportunity for us to get together a little bit more informally, talk about some things that are on our mind, visit, and be a little bit more social in times that we cannot physically be together. Vice Chair Arv Reddy has kind of been spearheading this event, and we've been trying to sort of have a theme for our months together. So in celebration of Black History Month and in recognition of our fantastic speaker, Lakeesha Morrison, we would like to continue some of this conversation into bar night. If the conversation doesn't go there, it's not like we're going to kick you out for not talking about these things. But we would like to maybe continue this conversation about how we as a largely white group can be allies, how we can continue this work for racial equality in the city, and hopefully some things that we would like to see from this new Human Rights Commission as we get that off the ground, like Kyle DeBuck said. Some other announcements and things upcoming. There's been a few chats, or there's been a few events shared in the chat, one through the Oakland Literacy and things. So we'll continue to share those links after the meeting. We also have Ian Jenkinson's brand new politics podcast. He's been doing these for a couple months now, or yeah, I think a couple months now, right? We started around the election time. They come out bi-weekly. His most recent interview was with Dan Ferenczi, Ian?
Yeah, the most recent one was with Dan Ferenczi about gerrymandering, and the one that's coming out on Monday will be about the student loan situation that we have in the country.
Yeah, so those are fantastic. Go ahead and subscribe to that. The link is in the chat as well as in our emails to listen to that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But it's great, and he's doing a fantastic job getting information out there. Just a quick announcement about next month's meeting. I am so excited about this one. We're going to have two students coming from Novi High School, actually, Sky and Krisha. They are the co-chairs and co-founders of Vote 16 Michigan. Vote 16 Michigan is an organization. It is part of a larger chapter, a larger national chapter called Vote 16 that is seeking to get suffrage for 16 and 17-year-olds at the local level only. So their conversations are about getting younger people involved in local elections, interested in and sharing their voices, and also the trade-off that if people, right, the argument is that young people are not involved in politics because they're not heard, and maybe they would have a greater stake in politics if they were able to make those decisions, and if politicians had to listen to them and had to cater to some of their needs and listen to some of their needs. So we are very excited to be hosting them. They will be our guest speakers for the March meeting. And the two of them will be here to share some resources about how we could maybe support them and just learn a little bit more about that organization. And then, like Paul mentioned, we're going to be having our, Paul, remind me what her official title is. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me for our April meeting.
Yeah, it's Julie Lyons-Bricker, who's Royal Oak's sustainability manager and also grants manager as well. So she'll be speaking in April and talking about Royal Oak's sustainability and climate action plan that's going to be developed this year.
Great, thanks for that. So those are things to look forward to in March and April. Keep an eye on our emails and our all of our social media for information about how to join and follow those. Is there any other calendar, new business events coming up that people would like to share? Yeah, Tom.
There we go. Vegetable gardeners. I volunteer on the Environmental Advisory Board, And our chair, Amanda Herzog's a fan of this idea. And so is, we got a city staff person, the new head of the DPW is in favor of it, getting some community gardens established in Royal Oak. So we're forming a bit of an organizing committee around that. If you are interested, just send me an email and we'll be doing stuff on that pretty soon. We hope to get started in the spring.
Great, thanks, Tom. Dr. Amanda Herzog.
Thank you. I just want to quickly, I know we talked a lot about it this meeting, just some next steps because we're going to need some help. The inventory and the goals will all inform the Sustainability Climate Action Plan, and we're at the very beginning stages. We see focuses in energy, transportation, water, waste, green space, and quality of life. And we will have many opportunities for community engagement and input into this plan. So we are looking for people who are interested in participating. And this is throughout the year. So it's not like right now, but we're just kind of looking at interest, who wants to be a part of this. But what we have done so far is the easy part. And the hard part will be to implement the plan and the necessary resources that we'll need. So please keep talking to your elected officials in support of this work, not only locally, but statewide. There's going to be a lot of policy changes that are going to be need to be done. And this is an emergency, so we're taking this charge seriously, but it's also very exciting that Royal Oak is addressing this by reimagining the way we live in a more equitable, efficient, healthy, and environmentally friendly way. So if you need help, if you would like to participate, just give me an email and I'll put my email in the chat.
Thanks so much for that. There's some really exciting stuff happening locally. Emmy did just want to remind us as well that the Mdp State Convention is coming up on February 20th. It's from 2:30 to 5 on Zoom. Everything is still virtual. You had to be a dues paying member by January 21st to be able to vote, but you can still participate and listen in on that if you are interested to know what's going on at the state party level. Good, it looks like Amanda's email is in the chat. Any other announcements, new calendar business, or updates?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'd
go
just
ahead, Richard.
I'd just like to invite folks to the Truth Towards Reconciliation Zoom on February 20th at 3 o'clock as we talk about our history and learn Lakeesha's story. We stand on land that was once called Royal Oak Township, and then it became white, called Royal Oak. So where do we really, how do we understand our history? And it's an informative educational opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And I saw that you shared the links to that earlier, and we can send that out to our members as well. Any other updates or calendar announcements? You guys might have seen on social media, we have our newest little Dem that joined our community this week as well. State Senator Mallory McMorrow and her husband Ray Wirt are obviously not here today because they have a 1-week-old at home, but we are excited for them and glad to welcome them to Royal Oak. So, you know, if you do see them out and about or talk to them, wish them congratulations, and we're very excited to have her. Baby Noah is here, so that's exciting. Any other announcements? Okay, great. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Paul, I see you. Seconds?
Yes, I'm so moved.
Great. Would anyone like to give a second to that?
I second. It's Lisa.
Good. Thanks, Lisa. All right, then we are adjourned for February. We'll see everybody next month. Have a great day. See ya.